Dane Mizutani covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Pioneer Press and TwinCities.com. Been a frequent contributor to 9 to Noon the last few weeks, and he's been nice enough to join us here in the exclusive Vikings Radio Network perch, about 25, 30 minutes in front of practice. Thanks for helping. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Wow, this perch you guys really got a nice setup up here.
Pretty sweet. When news pops the way it did yesterday, at the time it did, how does that alter your day, your professional day?
Well, actually, yesterday was interesting because we knew Kevin O'Connell was talking at 1 p.m. yesterday. Mm-hmm. We didn't know for certain that he was going to make the announcement that he did, but I had an inkling that he was going to make that announcement because the press conference itself, usually he was going to talk on Thursdays. It got bumped up to Tuesday. Just reading the context clues, thought a quarterback decision might be coming. But I was driving to the facility when the Adam Schefter bit breaks. I had to pull over and stop at a coffee shop right off of 35W and bang out a story real quick.
Wow.
I should have had one pre-written, a little cleaner, but we knocked it out.
But wait, to have one pre-written, then you would be writing about the winner of a race before the race was over. Sometimes
you have to prepare for everything in this job. I had a pretty good idea how this thing was going to end. I think we all did. But yeah, it was quite the sprint yesterday when that Twitter notification came through.
Okay, well, off that, if you say that those who follow it, those who cover it, those who talk about it, if we quote had a pretty good idea how it was going to finish, end quote, 9 to Noon for weeks, if not months, when talking about this, we have established Kyler Murray, we believe, is favored to win this race. Sometimes prohibitively favored, sometimes maybe not, just following people like you and just things that are happening at camp. So the Schefty break yesterday, with the race that now has been run and we have a victor, do you think the team was ready for it to pop when it did?
When the news breaks, yeah. I don't know. That's hard because usually the rollout, it can vary from time to time. You don't know if that's an agent. Maybe Schefty had steam on the inside when the conversation was had. It's hard to know that if the team was prepared for it to break at that very moment. But I had to imagine they knew at some point it was going to break before we were scheduled to talk to him at 1 p.m. They've kind of had a long time to plan for this rollout or when the information was going to break. But, yeah, when it breaks an hour and a half before the reporters, the beat writers are supposed to talk, something tells me maybe it came a little earlier than they were expecting.
Okay, I had some very interesting conversations here yesterday with certain people. You have conversations like that, and we call it, quote, background, end quote, all the time. That's what makes you guys good. So I don't know what your thoughts were on the essence of a true competition. But when it was all done and practice was taking place, and I'm chatting with people who are, not team employees who I respect, and they're kind of like, come on, it never was a competition. And then I just can't buy into that, and here's why. Because if it's a fixed race and Murray always was going to win, and the Tuesday before the Giants game was when you were going to announce it, then that means if over 10 days, say each quarterback received, one got 500 snaps, the other got 400. For a quarterback who's learning something new, well, that means to appease somebody's feelings and to pull off the ruse, you're telling me you just basically threw away 300 snaps? I just can't believe that. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it was all a sham. I don't think it was something where the outcome was predetermined to the degree that they didn't feel like they needed to have a competition. But I always described it as, if it's a race, if it's a 100-yard race, I always thought Kyler Murray was starting at the 50-yard line, and all he had to do was not fall on his face, and he was going to win the competition. So I think it was
good way to look at it.
I think it was a competition in the sense of if Kyler Murray came in the spring and he came back into the summer and he could not grasp the playbook. He could not figure it out. He looked lost out there. Then I did enough. We watch it every single day. He did enough for you to look at that, whatever play it was, and say, yeah, that's what the offense is supposed to look like.
Right.
So
But you also saw that from McCarthy, who has 10 starts here in knowing he has to know more of the offense than Kyler Murray.
Right, and I think in order for that competition to have fully flipped, or for J.J. to have caught Kyler, it had to be twofold. It had to be Kyler looking lost, and it had to be J.J. looking excellent. And there were times where J.J. looked excellent, but there were also times where J.J. looked the same as he did last year. So those two things, I think they kind of counteracted with each other, and by the time it was time to make this call, I do think it was the original timeline that Kevin had in place. We got the announcement we got yesterday.
Any word on how J.J. and or his camp have taken this news?
No, I hope to talk to J.J. today at some point.
TwinCities.com to follow.
Yeah, I hope to follow. We hope we can get some word from him, some comment from him. I would imagine he handles it the right way. There's been a lot of negatives that have defined his career to this point, and the kid has operated with positivity. So I think he will take it the right way. I hope he will take it the right way publicly, because I think this can be a defining moment for him in his career. How do you handle this bout of adversity? If he handles it well, I think there could be a future for him, if not here, somewhere else. If he handles it poorly, that could be it for him.
Right, a great point. Now, so to land the plane from my perspective on this, what's next for you with the story? Like JJ's lot in life here, figure out who the mole was, who provided Schefter with the information. What's next, or has it all become hevel? Has it all become vapor?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's next from how this team is going to progress into the season is just pouring over the Kyler reps. I watched every rep yesterday with a different eye, because it was just Kyler's team now.
Interesting.
It was a very, very good practice from Kyler. So I think that's part of the equation. How does the team respond? How does Kyler respond now that there is no competition, now that it is his job? Does he continue to keep the foot on the gas and keep progressing forward? That's something I'm trying to figure out and keep an eye on. But there is the JJ bit. How does he respond to this? And that's something that, as soon as he talks, will be evident. And then, even if he does respond well when he talks publicly, how does he react, and how does he respond behind the scenes? Those are things, like you mentioned, the on-background conversations that we have as beat writers, that you can start to glean over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months. How did he really handle not just the short-term disappointment of not being named the starting quarterback, but the long-term disappointment?
And you're saying McCarthy very likely or may speak with the media after practice today?
That's what I'm hoping. He didn't talk yesterday, so I hope today he talks.
At Dane Mizutani via X.
And with Kyler now moving forward, what's kind of fun about this, and I'm curious for your perspective, is throughout this competition, you sometimes saw them asking Kyler to do different things than specifically what you saw JJ. So it wasn't necessarily just counting reps. There was a style difference that you saw and was evident. Have you gone down that road yet, in terms of, now that this is Kyler's team, if I can read through those tea leaves and see how vastly different, how moderately different that this offense is going to look like now that Kyler's in charge?
Yeah, I do think now that, and it's a great point, Nordo, about the reps. Like, the rep counting was fun, and it was useful to a degree, but I do think the things that they were asking Kyler to do were different than the things they were asking JJ to do. That's why I wasn't out here publishing my completion percentage, because I don't know what the intent was of what each guy was asked to do practice to practice.
You may have lost some followers by not posting all those snap counts and percentages.
Hey, I'll live with that reality.
But hold on, don't I don't want to leave that out there in the radiosphere. So why would they have Murray do things differently? Why would they do different things?
I think because with Kyler Murray, you want to see, can he run the offense the way you want it to be run? Can he hit that 25-yard screaming dig over the middle that has become kind of a hallmark of Kevin O'Connell's offense? Can he push the ball downfield while also still taking care of it? Can he take risks that are calculated but not risky?
That's beautiful.
But with JJ, I think it was, can he find completions? Can he generate completions in a way that puts stress on the defense, which is something he struggled to do at times last year. But when I look at, now that the shift has happened, now that we can turn the page on the quarterback competition, I'm curious how much the Vikings try to activate Kyler Murray's legs. I don't think all the reps that he took while competing with J.J. McCarthy necessarily replicate what it's going to look like now that he's the guy, now that you can totally activate him with the ones, now that you can put put him in the pistol, see how he looks, running that RPO. We saw it a little bit yesterday, and I think we'll see it even more when fans are gone, when the media is gone. I think you will start to see more from Kyler Murray just in terms of how they activate him as a runner on top of a passer.
We played some Kyler cuts earlier, talking, just every day, new steps. I mean, there's, some boilerplate answers in relation to just getting this offense down, getting more comfortable in it. How confident are you? I mean, it's not like you're going to be affected by this. You'll report on it one way or another. But we've seen over the course of time, every QB that starts in Kevin O'Connell's offense, whether it's getting out of the huddle, getting to the line of scrimmage, getting the correct plays in, canning a play and making adjustments, the pre-snap stuff, every quarterback to some degree has struggled. What as you've watched things, just moving forward now, Kyler's going to get the lion's share. What's your level of confidence in terms of that evolution process, that growth spot for Kyler in this offense?
Yeah, I think everything I've heard from talking to people about Kyler in his past is that the guy is kind of a football savant. He can take on a lot of information and apply it right away. So I think the more reps he gets, the more you will see him start to kind of take ownership of this thing. But you're right when you talk about how quarterbacks have performed in this very, very dense offense in the past. It asks a lot of the guy calling the shots, and it will be interesting when we get into I think he's going to play a series in the preseason, maybe even 2 this Saturday. How does he handle it? How does the operation run? We've seen it at times in the past, false starts, formation issues at the line of scrimmage with quarterbacks. Is that something that plagues Kyler Murray early, or is that something he's kind of devoid of because of, like I said, his skills just in taking a lot of information and applying it right away? But all those things can start to happen now that we're not splitting the reps 50-50.
Getting back to Kyler and those legs, but to that point, whether it's this Saturday throughout the preseason and then the border battle week 1, what are you envisioning in terms of getting to see him activate those legs? Is this a situation where, we're getting a little extra time? He mentioned we didn't have refs on the field to see whether or not I was sacked or whatnot. But PA and I kind of talked earlier, like there's the instinctive, the intuitive self-awareness where he bails out and he makes plays and the highlight reels are true. But then there's the other end of it, like, do I want Kyler doing actually planned run plays, designated, designed QB runs? Like, what are you envisioning with that?
Yeah, I think we'll see. Like, I think if Kyler Murray is your quarterback and you don't have designed quarterback runs in the offense, you're leaving something on the table because he's so special.
Agreed.
I think we'll see a lot of RPO, probably more than we've seen with Kevin O'Connell in the past. I think Frank Smith and his time with the Miami Dolphins and coming here and bringing that running game expertise will lend itself to maybe implementing more of that RPO style run. But I think where Kyler breaks people's brains on the defensive side the most is when a play is wrong. It's not right in the huddle, and he makes it right with his legs. I think that's where you're going to see the most dynamism in his game. But on the other side of that coin, it's, can you still go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 without bailing at 2? Like that is kind of the balance of the legs of Kyler Murray. Use them, but don't use them too often.
So in closing for this segment, I've said before, but got a little loud about it earlier, that with from the combine through free agency, through the draft, through Kyler now being number 1, the A topic for the Minnesota Vikings offense all offseason has been finding ways to pull doubles and triples off Jefferson. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah.
And Kyler's mobility and the way they want to run it, I mean that is symbiotic to pulling people off Jefferson, right?
Yeah, I think Kyler's arm itself is going to be able to activate Justin Jefferson in a way maybe he wasn't activated last year. I think he can make those requisite throws, whether it's layering the ball over the middle or touch pass along the sideline. We saw one yesterday where he just dropped it in a bucket over Eric Wilson right into Justin Jefferson's arms. But yes, when a play breaks down or when you have to defend Justin Jefferson for, say, 5 seconds because Kyler Murray is running around out there, that's going to help Justin Jefferson. Nobody can hang with Justin Jefferson for 5 or 6 seconds, and that is now an option. Again, it's not something you want to rely on. You don't want Kyler Murray running around there every single play. But coverage busts happen when a guy creates time, and a guy like Kyler can create time in a way very few across the NFL can.
Dane Mizutani, Pioneer Press, TwinCities.com, at Dane Mizutani via X. Some defensive conversation and non-quarterback prattle when 9 to noon, which is noon to 3 today, continues from the Vikings Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center after this.
This is Paul Allen. Live from the TCO Performance.
Steve, Minnesota sporting events, including the Twins, the Wild, Timberwolves, Aurora, Lynx, Loons, Frost, Gopher Sports, and more. Now through September 30th, visit MNSEGoldenTicket.com for locations, hours, and details on how you could win. MNSEGoldenTicket.com.
Mizutani at every Minnesota Vikings practice. He has a trained eye for what we're talking about. Pioneer Press, TwinCities.com. And Albert Breer with Sports Illustrated, big name in the NFL. He has a trained eye, but he's not here every day. Holy cow, he picked a good day to be here yesterday with all the Kyler Murray news and stuff. But he wrote a story for Sports Illustrated after he left. And I want to run something by Dane because he watches A, more practice than Albert, and B, more practice than me. He wrote, Dallas Turner has had a monster camp, and he's realizing the enormous amount of talent he always has had. Do you see it that way?
I've seen Dallas Turner jump off my proverbial screen time and time again in camp, but I am just waiting to crown him until he does it in a game, because like Dallas Turner, this is year 3. He understands the system. He understands the rush lanes. He understands leverage and what he can utilize in his skill set to best win, rep in and rep out. But I got to see it in a game. That's not to say I haven't. Yeah. He closed the season spectacularly last year, led the team in sacks. Everything is there for him. But, yeah, I mean, I guess if it was binary, would you rather a guy have a good training camp, yes or no? I would say yes, but now I need to see him do it when the bullets are live. With the Kyler Murray announcement yesterday with Kevin O'Connell, he said something, and maybe I'm reading between the lines too much here, but Kevin said, quote, with the Giants game, they all will play, end quote. Really? I mean, Darrisaw, O'Neal, Van Ginkel, Jefferson, and he also said that, he'll have more information later in the week, so I don't really know what that means. But do you expect, everybody to play at least a little bit? I do think, and he said everyone will play and then everyone will have their own kind of plan from there. But I think if you're going to start Kyler Murray and you're going to play him and you're going to commit to doing that for a series, you want to see what it looks like with everybody. So I understand the risk of, well, if you roll Christian Darrisaw out there or Justin Jefferson out there and something goes wrong, you're going to have egg on your face. But at the same time, we need to see the reps live outside of just practice. So it's not a huge thing where, I think the preseason necessarily predicts success in the regular season. But I think you want to see these guys and how they'll perform when the bullets are live. Right, I agree. But, 5 days after the Giants game, the Ravens joints. And, that's going to be more of a rough and tumble, consistently physical football game than the Giants game. So, Jefferson and Darrisaw and O'Neal and Van Ginkel et al., they're going to play a lot, or they're going to perform a lot in those joint practices. You see what I'm saying here? Yeah, I think it is a thing where you could justify not playing them in the preseason game because you have the joint practice with the Ravens. But if you want to see them live in a game, my plan would be let them have a series or two against the Giants, let them have all the reps against the Ravens, and then put them on ice the rest of the way. No preseason games for anybody. Bill O'Connell wants you to wave at him. There we go. Hey. If the coach's dad speaks, then we stop shows. Nordo?
Absolutely. Do you think there's
trying to raise the roof?
The head coach gets a chance to learn too, and not that he's out there listening to fans, but conversations around how much certain guys got reps in preseason games a year ago. So Coaching staffs all talk about the joints like that's the most productive periods that they'll have all preseason because they get to control all elements of it and focus on the things that they want to the most. But do you think any of this just kind of a little graduating bit from KO's standpoint, like, you know what, for better or worse, McCarthy only went 4-7 for 30 yards or whatever he did in that Texans game. Maybe I do it a little bit different, get these guys at least some live fire in a preseason game in addition to the joints, just so that we're ready. You think there's any building off of that?
I think there could be credence to that, absolutely, because I think yes, the joint practices are optimal and in the best way that coaches, and especially new age coaches, have decided to prepare for the regular season. But it is all controlled, and there's just something about the game, atmosphere, environment, that is not predictive. And
right.
I think getting guys into that fire does matter, and it can bear weight moving forward to a degree. Now, you don't want to go out and play them for a half because you want them to get experience and then somebody gets hurt. But I think we can't operate under fear with this thing. And
right.
if you want to see Kyler Murray and you want to have conviction with how he's going to look with the starters, then you got to be, I guess, in some ways, willing to roll the dice with everybody at his disposal.
Isn't it kind of nuts how quickly this has changed, though, Dane? I mean, whether it's Ben Lieber, we're going to have Jack Greenway on Friday, 9 to noon during the feast. Those guys aren't so old, Dane, so far removed to the point they were talking about two-a-days and actually hitting guys. They're kind of the back in my day, not in my backyard type of thing now as retired NFL players. But then there was the period where you still had the starters. We're going to roll them out for a full quarter. We're going to roll them out for a full half. The third preseason game, right? And then the fourth preseason game is just for reps for other teams to see. To this now, where we're talking about high-end starters not getting a single rep in the preseason. It's amazing how quickly that's changed.
It is. I mean, that third preseason game, that was like a dress rehearsal for everybody. Like, it seems like 5 years ago, not that long ago. I'm 34, and I remember going to third preseason games in college and watching them play the whole bit. So it is interesting how much it's changed. I do think part of that is probably from a sports science standpoint. You just don't want to rack up the reps in the snaps if you don't have to. But I think there probably is a line or a needle to thread of you got to get them some work. You don't want to give them too much work, but if you don't get them any work, then it could look clunky from the beginning.
If you were to venture a guess now, with a right to change it when we chat with you closer to the season, how would you handle this? Regular season, more reps and why in the regular season? Ty Felton or Charles Demings?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say Charles Demings. And I hesitated because Brian Flores typically doesn't play rookies, or you have to really prove yourself for him to throw you out there, snap in and snap out. And Ty Felton's had a great camp. But if you're looking at both of these guys and just where there are opportunities to produce or to see the field, I'm going to take the guy who just has to beat out maybe James Pierre for cornerback 3 reps, and somebody who has to beat out Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jawan Jennings, T.J. Hawkinson. It's no slight to the camp that Ty Felton's had. He's been great. But Charles Demings, it's looked a little different than rookie cornerbacks in the past, and listening to Brian Flores talk about him today, I think he's starting to make a believer out of the defensive coordinator.
Wow, that's big.
2 guys for me, whether it's Jamal Adams reverting now, it sounds like, to safety, changing his number, and then the rookie Jake Golday. These are 2 guys, very different parts of their careers, obviously. But either or both, whatever pops in your head, do you believe that by the end of the preseason and getting to see some of this action in preseason games, that you'll have a better grasp for what Mr. Flores wants to do with those guys?
I hope so, because I think with Jamal Adams, like, since the linebacker to safety change has happened, we've seen him running with the starters basically just as like an all-time blitzer. That's not just to say that he's only on the field, he's going to blitz. But
isn't Jacoby Thomas nicked up?
Yeah, I think he is a little bit, and I think that has produced a little bit of, and Jay Ward was in the protocol last week, so I think that necessitated the number change to get Jamal Adams some reps there. But he's been an elite blitzer. That was what made him one of the best safeties in the league in his prime. And I think if you pair that skill set, I understand it's 6, 7, 8 years more into his career, but with Brian Flores, a guy who loves to blitz, it does seem to work well. Now, I am curious, as the preseason progresses, as the training camp wraps up, like how much of a role Jamal Adams has. Is he a starter, or is he a role player? Is he a rotational guy? And same for Jake Golday. Like, how much are they actually going to put on the kid's plate? It does seem like through training camp they're trying to put more and more and more on his plate to see how much he can handle. But at what point does he hit that plateau where you have to dial back and say, all right, this is the role we see him playing as a rookie? Both those things were going to be interesting to kind of follow ahead of the September 13th opener.
One more from each of us for Dane Mizutani, Pioneer Press, TwinCities.com, at Dane Mizutani via X. Excellent takes today, in my estimation. I get a little more wound up about special teams this time of the year than most people. I think you and I have talked about it on radio or off radio, that if you really, really want to get the inside on some roster spots and like which way they're going to go, the discerning eye goes the way of the coverage teams early in practice. So like, Ben Urasic, he's part of a lot of it. All right, probably tight end 4. Bartholomew is not part of as much of it as Urasic, so maybe 85 is tight end 3, and who knows? Just stuff like that. So the point being, 2 parts. First, Johnny Hecker and Brett Thorson. Thorson was the Ray Guy Award winner at Georgia last year, and he has those strange, abnormal Australian-type punts. Hecker's heading into his 15th year. And I think Johnny Hecker had 7 touchbacks last year, which was an all-time worst for him. So is Hecker a cinch, or do you think Thorson's pushing him?
I think Thorson is pushing him, but I still think Johnny Hecker probably has the inside track. I think the veteran presence that he brings to the room, you don't need a veteran presence when you have someone like Andrew DePaula, but I think just the battery of long snapper, Andrew DePaula, snapper, or
and
holding with Johnny Hecker. He just has a little more experience with that. He can still punt the ball. So I'd give him the inside track. And with the International Players Program, you can keep Brett Thorson around on the practice squad basically for free, assuming he doesn't get claimed. And I can't imagine he would get claimed on the waiver wire if he gets cut.
And secondly, punt return, where the Vikings haven't had a punt return touchdown since Marcus Sherrills in 2016 against the Houston Texans. And Kene Nwanwu had a kick return touchdown that Thursday night game against New England. Well, that's the last kick return touchdown. So
Turkey Day, right? Yeah,
they're starting to stack years here. But the punt return bit's now into the early stages of its second decade. Ty Felton, Miles Price, Trayvon Rudolph was identified by Nolan Teasley, one of 7 that Teasley has brought in here since he got here. Who do you think's leading the punt return for the regular season? Yeah,
I'd still give the nod to Miles Price right now just because he did it last year. I think they have a confidence in what he's able to do. So until further notice, I just got to give it to the incumbent. Miles Price showed some wiggle. He showed some explosiveness as a rookie. I think he's gained more comfortability back there, whether it is kick return or punt return. So for now, until I see otherwise, I think it's just got to be him.
We got to see live reps for these guys, but Blake Brandel, Dane, any vibe, leanings, gleanings over the course of time in terms of just how he's tackling being the main man in the middle now, and that's his sole focus. No more spot duty. He's going to be the starting center, vying to. Let's say he's heavily favored. If we were talking about like a Kyler and JJ thing, how is Brandel getting along?
Yeah, I think they put Blake Brandel in a tough spot, and I will say kudos to him for how he's handled it. He's a tackle/guard who also played center, who's now converting to all-time center, but then you're having him snap to Kyler, and then you're having him snap to JJ, and then you're having him snap to Carson sometimes. So I think naming a starting quarterback, it might sound crazy. It's obviously going to help Kyler the most. It's going to help the offense as a whole.
That's why they did it. They did it for Blake.
They did it for Blake. It's going to help Blake Brandel, who has had some inconsistencies snapping the ball through training camp so far. He's going to be the starter. I think they've pretty much handed to him on a silver platter.
Right.
Unless they make a move at the 11th hour, I don't see that coming. So I think the experience with Kyler now, the repetition that you'll get day in, day out, snap in, snap out will be good for him.
One more, because we won't see you or talk to you till at least after the Giants game, then maybe the Ravens joins during it or whatever. Speaking of, you said making a move, and it's what triggered it for me. You think they're good at edge? Or, I mean, like, the Kyler, JJ stuff, rear view mirror, is one of the next things for you, and the beats working on if they're going to bring in Kyle Van Noy. Hassan Reddick would be a favorite of mine if they were to do that. But then, that gets into, like, people, how much am I going to play and how much do I get, stuff like that. What do you think? Yeah,
it's interesting you bring that up, because as soon as the quarterback conversation, the competition ended, it did open up our eyes to be able to look at other positions on the field while watching practice. So I will be watching the edge rushers, how they rotate, how they look, with more of a fine-tooth comb moving forward. I still think they're going to sign a veteran at some point, because they don't really have somebody who does what Dallas Turner does. They have a lot of guys who try to mimic what Andrew Van Ginkel does, but just straight rush off the edge, dip your shoulder, get around the guy with explosion. They don't really have somebody like that if Dallas Turner were to go down or need a break here or there. So I think they'll make a move at some point. Like you said, you've listed all the guys. There's good names out there. I anticipate one of them will be wearing purple by the season opener.
Could be a trade too, right?
It's certainly possible, but then you get into how much capital you're going to give up, who's available. It could also be something. There's always surprise cuts at the end of the year, so maybe they let it go all the way until rosters are due, and then they make a move in that first week of in that kind of dead week between rosters are due in the opener.
My brother, you are fantastic. Thank you very much for helping the radio show, and we'll see you at practice.
Sounds good.
Dane Mizutani, Pioneer Press, TwinCities.com, at Dane Mizutani via X. The Owl Roofing postgame is next.
Are you looking to score tickets to the biggest games and concerts in town, from Santana, the Doobie Brothers, Snoop Dogg, and more? Your chance to win is just waiting. KFAN.com. Keyword contest. Enter.
Hey, thank you very much for listening to the Slot Swap. Bumper to Bumper with Barrero will be at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center right after 9 to noon. Vikings practice is underway. Giants game Saturday at noon. And this is the Owl Roofing post game, where if you miss 9 to noon today, the post game shares with you some things that we found interesting during the course of the show, in case you're interested in going back and podcasting.
Yeah, and Florio out of the gates. Love Florio. Florio's in mid-season form. He is hound-dogging it as it pertains to how Adam Schefter got the necessary information.
Right out of the gate. He got me going a little bit because I hadn't been thinking about the Michigan tie.
No, I hadn't initially, but then, I mean, as the day went on, it was pointed out many times that he was indeed a Michigan man, Adam Schefter, and who better than Florio, and just kind of going down the roads, insiders and all of this. That was great, but just kind of I love the conversation throughout the day, whether it was the talkbacks, but just kind of going through the mental machinations of, now that the quarterback situation is settled. A lot of our show today was really dedicated to that, and the what could be. The projection of Kyler Murray in this offense, using a quote from the head coach himself, Kevin O'Connell, yesterday. We're not going to glean that today on this field, certainly not even Saturday or throughout the preseason, but now that he's getting all of the reps, now that we get to see the focal point and everything being built around him, that's an optimistic part of the conversation today, 9 to noon, and that's what I'm carrying with me moving forward. Is just now we can all kind of take a breath and just move forward and see how Kyler is going to make this thing go in 2026.
I thought it was interesting with Dane Mizutani, our most recent guest, where he, after the announcement that Murray would be quarterback, he said he watched practice from a different prism.
Yeah.
Where it's like Murray, it's maybe he knew he was the one, but now everybody knows he's the one, and how he approached practice yesterday. And he said it was different. It just had a little more pop to it. Seemed like it was more efficient. He wasn't cutting reps as much with McCarthy and Wentz. I thought that was interesting. Podcast that final hour of the noon to 3 presentation. And also we played most of Brian Flores' press conference, defensive coordinator for the Vikes. And you can find that really middle of the radio show from podcasting, KFAN.com, 9 to noon on demand. But the glowing nature of how Brian Flores talked about Stephen F. Austin, rookie corner, Chuck Demings.
Yeah.
That you just don't hear that from Flores when it comes to rookies. Even Caleb Banks. He generally will say something, and then you can kind of tell, like, all right, well, this guy has to win Flo's favor. Well, with Demings, he certainly didn't commit to how much he was going to play in the regular season, make the team, play this weekend. But he's really, really high on Chuck Demings.
Yeah, and you know what, PA? There was a talk back earlier specifically about Kevin O'Connell and can he change coaching style or adapt, whatnot, and it was Kyler related. But think about this, PA, 2026. Can the Vikings do anything more for the fan base? You're going to have a head coach that is unleashing after being an 80% throwing team on 3rd and short. Suddenly this rushing attack is going to be unbelievable, take the league by storm. And then I got a defensive coordinator that at one point couldn't take Harrison Smith off the field for one play to save his life because he thought the whole thing was a house of cards without number 22. Now we're playing rookies all over the place. We got Jake Golday flying in there. Caleb Banks and Big Citrus are going to be playing 65% of the snaps. And Chuck Demings. Yeah. Chuck Demings in the nickel, baby. The coaches, they're changing them in front of us.
The rubber's going to meet the road on so many conversations when the regular season begins.
Oh, yeah.
For instance, when you're the assistant head coach and Frank Smith, and you have a say in the running game, how much of a say? Well, they've gone to a vertical wide zone scheme and drafted DeMond Claiborne because he fits it.
Change the whole scheme.
So Smith has a say in this.
Yes.
Then you get down to the 18, and it's 2nd and 6. And O'Connell has been sitting back on this middle zone pass that he knows is going to work. And then Smith clomps in his ear saying, we've been waiting for this running play for 3 weeks. We got to do this. Rubber's going to time out.
And both of them are going to be annoyed when Kyler RPO style and jogs into the end zone.
Hey, that was a treat doing noon to 3 today. We're back at it tomorrow, 9 to noon. And we hope you join us then. For Brett Blakemore, guiding the Great Chippewa Covenant at FM 100.3 KFAN, and Eric Nordquist, and an applauding Dan Barrero. Bumper to Bumper is next, on air, on site, on demand, and it'll be on fire. I'm Paul Allen. May God bless you and all of your families, and thank you for listening to KFAN. Bumper to Bumper is next.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Fresh Time Market.
West 94 looking at some brake lights from Hiawatha